Welcome back to another NFL Showdown here at Fantasy Sports Insight. I am Hold the Door DFS here, one of the coaches and owners here at FSI. I am super pumped for another Showdown slate. This is a Chiefs and Bills slate here that we are going to be discussing. And then we only have one more left, and we are going to have a lot of Super Bowl content out. We'll do some props. We'll do obviously the Showdown breakdown here. Be on the lookout for that stuff. But if you are also looking for NHL content or looking for content for the first game, if you're watching this here in the morning, make sure you check that out. Hit the like button. If you're new, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. We have 60%, 70% of our viewers are non-subscribers. So we know you're out there. Just hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. So let's get into the slate. Chiefs here and the Chiefs and the Bills. And normally Chiefs slates, I have to say I played a lot of Chiefs slates this year, and almost 9 times out of 10, it is just jamming the top 3 Chiefs. This feels like the one situation, or if they would have played like Baltimore or I don't know, where you're actually like, or, if they played the Packers or something like that, where you're actually considering the other side of the ball. So the Chiefs are going to be 3-point home favorites, which is not really that relevant. We know there's going to be a lot of points. Let's just start out on the Chiefs side. There is some injuries stuff that we'll have to monitor closer to lock. I don't need to spend any time on Mahomes. He's going to be active. I don't think, a concussion is not like a lingering injury that, obviously if he gets concussed again, he's going to be out of the game. But I don't think that had any that didn't have any it wasn't because of the game before that he's going to be more likely to be concussed, on today's slate. So you play him. Don't worry about the injury. You're going to play him. He's going to still probably run around, move as much as he normally would. And even last game in one half, he put up 21 DK or however long he lasted, barely into the second half, whatever it was. Then you're going to get a dream matchup for Travis Kelce and a little bit and a more challenging matchup probably with Tyreek Hill, who will probably be shadowed by Tre'Davious White. But regardless, they move around Hill so much as well that you can't just say like I'm going to fade Hill because of a matchup, right? But Travis Kelce is definitely going to have the best matchup here. And Travis Kelce coming off, again, a phenomenal game, 109 yards, a touchdown, just insane season, insane consistency. And what just amazes me is that you can't just funnel in against him. They can't double team him because they got Tyreek Hill. And it just still always ends up like Kelce on a linebacker. And then that matchup is just so brutal for defenses. But so those 3 are obviously in play, but you also have Josh Allen on the other side of this game and Stephon Diggs. So prioritizing between those 5, that if you can get to 3 of them, you can, but it's not as obvious and easy as the first slate to get up to that 4th one. So we'll talk about that when we get to some builds. But Edwards-Helaire is questionable and practiced a little bit in limited fashion. So if he does become active, that takes us off Darrell Williams a little bit. And then Le'Veon Bell is also questionable. So that situation is just really fluid. And if you're going to play this slate and you're not paying attention to the news, just send me your money via PayPal rather than donating it to DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever. But you need to pay attention to the news before the slate. Le'Veon Bell, questionable. Obviously, if there's a case where Helaire is out and Bell is in, what we saw last week is Bell only had 3 carries. They wanted to use Darrell Williams more as the lead back. Then that definitely puts him in play at 7K. Sammy Watkins is one I'm really interested in. He is going to be a game time decision. And if he is in, 3,800 is an insane discount for a player as the number 3 receiver on this team. Now, they're still going to rotate guys in and out, and I can't imagine a player that was a game time decision they're just ready to deploy in 100% capacity like they would if he wasn't injured, right? But I do still think at 3,800, he has touchdown equity. He has, 4 to 5 catches, 60 to 70 yards. So he can certainly, outscore Butker or Bass on the other side of the ball easily. Now, they're both great kickers and also both really in good spots. I prefer Bass to Butker, but both are fine. So yeah, really pay attention to Sammy Watkins. If he is out, that keeps Hardman in play. And Hardman, was really interesting last week because they had a lot of short design passes to him. They handed it off to him one time. So, it is always good to see when teams are intentionally setting up plays for those type of guys. Then when you have here, you had Robinson catch one pass on 3 targets. I guess he's probably one of the better values if Watkins continues to be out. Pringle even saw 2 catches as well for 14 yards, so he could be used for 800 if Sammy Watkins continues to be out. I think if Watkins is in, then you definitely won't see any Pringle, but just an option. If you want a Sherman touchdown, you can pay for that as well. Otherwise, the value is pretty bleak down here compared to last week when we had Darrell Williams at 700 or whatever it was. All right, the Buffalo side, Josh Allen will probably be the second most popular play behind Mahomes. And then this is where it gets tricky. His favorite target is Diggs, and there's no denying that. He will do whatever he can to get him the ball, and Diggs is just such a good route runner that he can make himself open. And if you watch that game, he overthrew him a couple times on deep throws too, and he could have really had a 30+ fantasy point day. That is Diggs. John Brown, 7,600, got the price bump, because he played better than Beasley, who had no catches on 2 targets. And then you even have Singletary here. This price is just insanely cheap. I was just hoping he's like 8K and I don't have to worry about considering him. They aren't going to really run the ball much unless they could. I take that back. It's a great matchup for them to do that, but that's not really part of their game plan on a week-to-week basis. So they prefer the ball to just be in Josh Allen's hands, whether he's running it or throwing it. But Singletary, I thought maybe Yeldon would play a little bit more. Singletary played like 95% of the snaps. So I think he just has the equity of being out on the field that often. And if they're losing, they'll check down. The weird thing is Allen doesn't really check down that often. You see last game was oh, Singletary's open. He's just going to continue to take the shots down the field. But, that's not going to happen every time. And you have Cole Beasley here, even at 5,000. And I think that price is just based on the last game performance. But if you go and know what his role was all season, that he was a really good slot receiver that could be pretty likely dependent on 5 to 6 or can relied on for 5 or 6 catches, 50 to 60 yards, and maybe he catches a touchdown. So we have some really interesting mid-range options here. Cole Beasley, Singletary, Sammy Watkins potentially on the other side of the ball. And then you have 2 awesome kickers in Tyler Bass and Butker. Gabriel Davis is a game time decision. I think he's really good value too at 3,200 if he's in. He did not catch any of his 4 targets last game, but he was certainly out there often because they are a lot of times in 4 wide sets. But if he is out, that definitely brings into the play somebody like Isaiah McKenzie, who actually did have 2 catches as well last game, but for 1,200, he could be certainly viable in that case. TJ Yeldon, I thought there was reason to consider him. He had 2 carries for 4 yards. And I think they both were at the very end of the game when they were just running out the clock. He's that guy that just looks so awkward. His jersey was so clean. It looked like he hadn't even run around in his jersey during warmups to just look athletic in his jersey. So I just don't know. I don't see him doing much, even though I fell for that trap last week. So let's get into the whole slate. My 3 favorite cash plays: Mahomes, Allen, and then deciding between Kelsey and Diggs. Right now, my lean is Kelsey, but I think if there's a way to get all 3 of them in, that is going to be my goal. So let's just play around with a couple builds here. Let's just go the cheapest let's just say I wanted Diggs. Let's just see where this leaves me. So if I play those 4 without punting at a captain spot, I'm left with $250 left to slate a player. You literally would be, let's see, Croft, maybe? No. I'm trying to think there's even guys that are going to be even active down here. Maybe Lee Smith. Yeah, I don't know. Take it for what it's worth, but I don't think that this strategy is going to work. Now, you could go cheaper at captain, which I'm fine with. So say you want, say Sammy Watkins is active and you really like his upside there. Now you can play somebody. Oh, you're still 100 short actually. So you'd have to even go cheaper than that. So let's go down to Bass. What does that give us? 700. You could play TJ Yeldon or Darwin Thompson, who I don't think played last week. Oh, no, he didn't play last week. So some really interesting builds. Now, if you're willing to not just play 3 of them, okay, and then say that you put, let's just put it doesn't really matter. Let's just say you put Mahomes at captain. Now this is really interesting because even with 3 of them, if you want Bass and say you want Watkins and then you still can't get Butker, actually you're just short of Butker, you could go to Davis. So if you go slightly cheaper at captain, then you could go, so let's just put Josh Allen in there instead. It's only 100 difference, but it actually would be the difference of being able to get both Butker and Watkins. So again, you kind of have to decide, like if you're willing to punt at captain and then just punt your last spot, you can get 4 of the studs. And on this slate, you could consider that because those 4 studs can literally put up 20 to 30 points per player. So it's not like you are jamming in studs that don't really have a great floor or upside. These guys have like some of the best DFS upside in the entire league. So thanks a lot for listening. Check out any of our other content here at fsidfs.com. And yeah, have a good one.